the March Zoning Board of Appeals. Bear with me. This is my first time running the meeting.
Sure. You just need a motion to adopt the minutes.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to adopt the minutes of last meeting.
Do you have a second? Hearing a second. Do we have everybody who, I guess, yays? Raise your right hand.
With discussion first. Is there any discussion?
Further
There's a
discussion,
motion
sir?
and a second.
Any changes anybody wants to make
Any changes anyone makes
to the minutes?
to the minutes?
I didn't see any.
No.
Seeing none. Everyone who agrees, or yay, raise your right hand. Okay. So the order of business tonight, as we go through new business, the staff will come up with each case, at the beginning of each case, and give a presentation. After staff has given their presentation, the applicant may come forward and give their presentation. When you come forward, please state your name and address for us before you start your presentation, and please speak clearly into the microphone, as we need to capture this for the record. Please present your case to the board and don't speak to people in the audience. We appreciate if everyone keeps their phones off or on vibrate. Once the applicant has given their presentation, we'll open it up for public hearing, which is, we will allow people to speak for or against the application. Once that's taken place, the applicant will be allowed to come back up for additional comments. And once those comments have taken place, the public hearing is closed. And at that time, a motion will be presented and discussion will happen amongst the board, and then a vote will take place. So first case tonight is Z21-7.
Good evening, Zoning Board of Appeals members. This is, as Mr. Hunter said, this is case Z21-7. Should be quite familiar with all of y'all. It's been before y'all for a few times the past couple of months. The applicant is John Potter from the Potter Companies, and the property is located at Catamount Drive at Charlotte Highway at the northwest corner. They're proposing to build a Tractor Supply store, as y'all are aware. His tax map number is 559-0000029, 002, 174, and 176. The property is zoned BD3, and they're actually requesting a variance from the minimum lot width requirement. If you'll recall, I'll go through some history here. This was denied a while back, and it's actually come back before y'all. Y'all heard it last month and agreed to rehear the case. They initially submitted with the county for site plan review back in May of 2020. Through the review process, some variances were identified. One of those was a variance for a grand tree removal, and then another one was a lot width variance similar to what's before you tonight. Both variances in November of 2020 were denied. In December of 2020, they submitted a revised site plan to staff. Staff reviewed that, and the access drive was relocated to be off of Charlotte Highway. And the location of the proposed drive, which was approved by the Zoning Board of Appeals in February, required a variance from the curb cut separation. Then at the same meeting last February, they came before y'all with a request to rehear this for the lot width variance, which is why we are here before you tonight. It's virtually the same site plan as it was last month. I have some illustrations here I'll show you as we go through the PowerPoint. The required road frontage for a commercial lot along that stretch of Charlotte Highway is 150 feet. What they're proposing for what we'll call the cellar remnant piece is 50 feet. So they're requesting a 100-foot variance. Here's the proposed site plan. This one, we've had back and forth, we've actually worked with the applicant. The layout's pretty much similar, but there's some minor tweaks that we've discussed with them lately. But for this purpose, this is enough regarding the seller frontage, seller retained parcel, excuse me. Basically, they're taking the 4 parcels I initially showed you, and I have another slide here, I'll show you about that. They're gonna recombine them and then subdivide them into these 2 parcels here. The red one, which is the seller retained parcel, that's gonna have the 50-foot of frontage along Charlotte Highway, and the blue one, which will be the Tractor Supply parcel. Here's the close-up of the area, excuse me, down here at Charlotte Highway that shows the 50-foot of frontage. You can see their driveway located right to the left there. Here's the preliminary survey that was provided, an alt survey that we saw, and it's kind of got all the parcels that are kind of involved in this whole thing. The red parcel is what's referred to as the Armstrong parcel throughout your report. It's really not involved in this variance, but it is kind of involved in the entire development as to what they're proposing. The yellow piece, the green piece, the navy blue piece, and the light blue piece are all the other parcels that they're gonna combine and then subdivide to look something like this. The blue piece, again, will be Tractor Supply. The yellow piece is what's before you tonight for the variance. And the red piece, excuse me, is the Armstrong parcel where there's currently a single-family home. Here's an aerial showing all the parcels highlighted in blue there. You can kind of see how the current layout of the parcels is somewhat convoluted. And, oh, I'm sorry. Actually, what we've started to do in the reports, if y'all notice this month, they're a little different than what they've been in the past. So what we've done to try and help y'all determine if there's a true hardship or not is kind of go through some of the approval criteria and help with some of the findings if we can. So this is a summary of what's actually in your report regarding the extraordinary exceptional conditions, excuse me. While it appears the proposed lot would have approximately 250 feet of frontage along Catamount, there's actually no frontage along Catamount due to the 15-foot strip. We've talked about this in the past. So there's no frontage, there's legal access, but technically there's no frontage to Catamount. So their only true frontage will be on Charlotte Highway. The conditions do not generally apply to other property in the vicinity. And from that standpoint, there are very few residential uses left, especially single-family homes along that section of Charlotte Highway. So the remaining residential use, the Armstrong parcel, as I've talked about, is a major factor into why they're proposing this lot configuration as it is. Because of these conditions, the application of this chapter to the particular piece of property would effectively prohibit or restrict the utilization of the property. As stated by the applicant, the seller will be combining, the Armstrong parcel for future development with the remnant piece of parcel that's before you tonight. So they're eventually, and they have a good slide in their PowerPoint here that's coming up, kind of showing what they'll have as total frontage for the site when we move forward with the development for all of it. What they're going to propose will allow more comprehensive development and a shared access. Without the variance, the applicant states they'll be unable to construct the Tractor Supply and that the remainder parcels may be left in a manner that would be difficult to develop. And the authorization of the variance will not be a substantial detriment to the adjacent property or the public good or the character of the district. And essentially with that one, the applicant stating the seller retained parcel and the Armstrong parcel, the fact that they're going to develop them together and they'll be combined, the significance of the proposed lot line and where it's going to be is pretty much minimal. So it really shouldn't be a detriment to any of the adjacent properties. Should the board see to approve the variance, staff has these recommended conditions that are also in your packet right behind the staff report. So with that, I'll be happy to take any questions, and the applicant has their presentation next.
For the parcel that is really up for the variance with the 50-foot access to the 274, do you have a name for that? I mean, there's Armstrong and there's Tractor Supply. Is there some way we can refer to that, just parcel?
The sellers. The seller's remnant is what I believe they've called it on there.
Seller's remnant, you said?
Seller's retained.
Oh, retained.
Seller retained.
Okay.
That's on, I forgot what page it was in your report, but it's on
Okay.
one of the site plans in the survey in the report.
Okay, I just to make it easier, thanks.
It is on.
Oh, it's on the map right here.
There you go.
Yeah,
The,
I was looking at my map, it doesn't have it on there, so, oh, thanks.
so the seller retained property could not have a driveway off of Charlotte Drive. Is that correct?
Off of Charlotte Highway?
I mean, Charlotte Highway.
It could not. It would be up to DOT. If they were to, the way they're proposing it, no, there'd be a shared access with what
Well,
they're
but I mean,
proposing to
yeah, I was getting
construct.
to that, but I mean, given the proximity of the driveway on the tractor supply site, they probably could not have a driveway on Charlotte Highway. So is there access point somewhere documented that it's a shared access?
I guess I'm not understanding your question.
Well, I mean, I guess one of the questions I have is one of the points of having a roadway frontage is to have access to that roadway.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if a driveway can't be there, I'm just trying to determine if that's even a,
They would still have legal access off of Catamount. If they were to come back, I mean, the Tractor Supply site plan still is not approved. The curb cut location received a variance. You know, this layout doesn't exist. If you were to approve this variance, given what the applicants presented, it would ultimately bind the seller retained parcel to access through the Tractor Supply site through the shared access. They've also had some recorded easements and everything. They've been working through that legal process, and the applicant could probably explain more of that to you.
I guess where I'm going is, I mean, the proposal is to combine it with the Armstrong property. But, I mean, we can't, I'm thinking we can't look at it that way. We have to look at it as if that falls apart, can this property stand alone?
If that would fall apart, we would still, I mean, yeah, it could stand alone. It still has access off Catamount.
Off Catamount, okay.
And it would still, they would still be bound by, if you were to put a condition that they were to access through the shared access with Tractor Supply, they would still have to access it that way, even if it weren't to be combined with the Armstrong parcel.
Can you go back to the slide before this one with the yellow, the blue, and green?
That one,
Yes, that's the original way it lays right now.
that's the current configuration of the properties, yes.
Alright. Thank you.
The parcel in question, but they're asking for the variance. I see there's a wood shed there, but no home, no one living on it?
No, they're on the current properties, no, sir, there are no residents on the 4 properties that are part of the subject of this variance.
Okay.
All right.
Applicant like to come forward?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the zoning board. Before you again on this project. This is the 3rd time this project's been in front of you. I was in February, we talked about kind of the details, the peculiarities of this project. And what you notice with those
Excuse me,
different
can you
parcels.
go ahead and please state your name and address?
Yes, Dan Ballou on behalf of the applicant, 331 East Main Street, Rock Hill.
Okay, continue.
The unique configuration of these parcels, there are 2 branches of a single family, the Armstrong and the Tiller. And the seller retained is owned by what's called the Tiller Group, and it's members of the Tiller family. They're related. I believe they're cousins. They're not mother, parent, and children, but they have a common interest in the development of this property. And frankly, our anticipation is that if this is approved and the Tractor Supply does come to the site, that this will accelerate the development of the rest of that parcel. And so the things that we're talking about as contingencies or possibilities really are, we believe, temporary, and it's a question of timing. The only parcel that is occupied in a residential sense is the Armstrong parcel. Mr. and Ms. Armstrongs do still live there. They're aged And I think it's just a timing question of when they're ready to move. And so we're cooperating with them and working through this site plan to move forward with it in really the best way for everyone concerned. I do have Sarah Stewart here, who is our engineer, who can walk you through the project in a little more detail. It may be some of the same things we looked at in February, but is more specific to our request tonight for the variance. And again, it's a variance just of that one strip that is really part of a larger family project. So there certainly is ample room if you combine those two parcels, which we think ultimately is going to be the case. But as we stand today, there are two separate parcels, and so that variance would be required for that strip from the tiller or the seller retained parcel.
Good evening. My name is Sarah Stewart with Dogwood Engineering. My address is 1209 Oak Crest Trail, Belmont, North Carolina. Thank you for having us back again tonight. I thought Josh's presentation was a really good kind of summary of how we got to this point. So I've got a couple slides. So as Josh mentioned, we're requesting a variance to allow a 50-foot lot frontage width here for their seller retained portion, which is this area in yellow, which is less than the 150-foot ordinance requirement for this type of site. As Josh showed a similar slide to this, this is the existing layout of the parcels as it is today, and as you can see, it's mainly non-conforming. Some exceptional unique conditions are that we have the 15-foot unclaimed strip along Catamount, so even though it looks like we've got a great corner lot, this side's effectively landlocked. Some of these existing parcels currently don't have frontage or have frontage less than 150, so kind of as it stands today, it needs a little bit of cleanup. Unique conditions are that Josh mentioned, kind of talked about this with the existing single-family residential on Charlotte Highway is pretty unique, and then traditionally lots have frontage onto roads that they are next to, so that's kind of unique in this case. And so what we're proposing today. So as Josh mentioned, we're kind of carving out this corner piece, which is 4.66 acres. The remainder, Tiller and Armstrong and seller retained, or the Tiller group portions, are kind of this L-shaped piece right here. So what we've kind of done, and this is to Mr. Hunter's earlier question, is we've stated that these owners have a common interest. We're providing this shared easement here for their future access, but how do we kind of get that formalized so it's not just kind of what we all have been discussing? So one of our concessions or additional conditions for variance that we've been working on is this recorded reciprocal easement and restrictions agreement, which addresses some of these things we've been discussing. So this document creates a shared access easement for the seller retained parcel and Armstrong parcel use, which will be, accessing right here on this provided stub. The stub will go to the limits of our property, and then there'll also be, for the current time being, a 15-foot asphalt connection directly to Mr. Armstrong's existing driveway. So that will give them access to this driveway directly onto Charlotte Highway. The REA also states that the Tiller tract and the Armstrong-Murphy tract will be developed together as a common joint development. So this states that these two properties would be developed concurrently and can create an effective frontage of 220 out of the 50-foot that we're asking for and the existing 170-foot Armstrong frontage. But again, to go back to my earlier point, the REA states that the future development will use the driveway easement without a request for an additional driveway in the future. So the effect on the adjacent properties, The Tillers are adjacent to the Tractor Supply track, obviously are in support, and the Armstrongs are also in support of this variance request. Are there any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's the conclusion of our presentation. If there are any questions of any kind of the applicant, we'd be happy to field them, but we just would ask for the approval of the variance to allow the project to move forward.
Do we have anyone to speak against the project, or the request? Do we have anyone to speak for the request? Seeing none, that closes the public portion of this.
Motion to approve with staff conditions?
Second?
We've got a second. Open for discussion. Tony?
I mean, we've talked about it for the last 6 months. I think this is straightening out a mess. So I just think it makes sense. I think it meets all the criteria. I think it's a good plan.
And I'd just like to add, living just down the road from here, this is not gonna be resident, this whole strip, this whole corridor, 274, is gonna be nothing but commercial in the next, 5 to 15 years. And I just think the less curb cuts you can have on 274, the better the traffic flow will be, the safer it will be. I think, eventually this curb cut will go from 50 to 220, like they had mentioned, once they combine the seller's properties, the Armstrong property and the seller's retained property. And I just thankful we can save the trees, and I just think it, as Tony said, it just cleans everything up, and yeah, look forward to having them in the neighborhood.
I guess the only question I would have would be for staff. There was a mention of a recorded reciprocal easement and restriction agreement. How does that factor into this request? Is it?
They have provided the easement agreement to staff. We do have a copy of that. It's something I guess, as how it would be part of the request, they presented it as if it would be part of the request.
Is it? They're requesting a variance with the understanding of those bullet points that were put in that agreement. Does that need to be tied into our conditions for
The motion?
the motion?
That would be up to the board if they'd like to do that. If they have it recorded in the Register of Deeds office, we could check it with I believe they will bring the plat in the next week or so. But if you would like to add that reciprocal agreement as part of the approval, require that, I don't know.
I think you're just splitting hairs here.
I do, but I guess my own concern is if
I'll amend it
if the Armstrong property goes
they still
south.
got access though. They still
Through
got,
Catamount.
they still got road frontage
Catamount.
yeah. No, not Catamount, 49, right? Yeah, they've got road frontage on 49.
Well, not the seller's retained.
But they have it on,
I'm talking about where the
Catamount.
residence is. You're talking about this parcel?
Right, but that's not what's under for variance.
Right, but that's what the easement ties it all in
Oh,
together.
gotcha, okay. I see what you're saying.
I'm fine. Okay, seeing no more discussion. All in favor, raise your right hand. Okay, next request is Z 21-8.
Yes, sir. I'm Marion Ray, zoning planner for York County. This variance, the applicant is Donna Martin, and the property is at Rainbow Circle and Highway 557. It's zoned RC1, Residential Conservation 1. And she's requesting a variance from minimum lot width or road frontage. The project site is approximately 8.85 acres. It's located east of Clover on Highway 557 between Highway 55 and Ridge Road. The existing lot has 3 road frontages, one large one on Highway 557 and 2 separate frontages on Rainbow Circle.
Thank you.
Okay, that's fun. All right, survey they submitted for their variance. Property owner is seeking to, a variance to subdivide the lot. The new lot C, which is in the top left corner, has an existing road frontage on Rainbow Circle, but not the 100 feet required by code. Lots A and B will have the required frontage as drawn. And then I did a close-up here of the road frontage on Rainbow Circle, the western side there. And you can see the adjoining lots, there's a subdivision to the north, and then the adjacent lots are individual plat. All meet or exceed road frontage requirements. And I gave you an aerial, just to kind of show you it's the improvements in the area. You see a driveway directly to the north, and then a driveway directly across the street, Rainbow Circle, from this parcel. I swear I'm not doing that. Okay. Due to the existing road frontage of 44.79 feet on Rainbow Circle, the applicant is requesting a road frontage variance of 55.21 feet. So the approval criteria, I'll run through them really quick. I put a very short summary on the slide there, but I'll read through what is in the staff report. So to help the board with rendering a decision on this request, there are 4 specific findings by state law that lay out an analysis to ensure that a variance, if granted, is done due to unnecessary hardship. So for the first one, extraordinary and exceptional conditions, the lot has frontage on 3 roads, Highway 557 and twice on Rainbow Circle. The irregular road frontage configuration on the western frontage of Rainbow Circle is a remnant from a subdivision of family land by previous owners in 1987. And then B, the conditions do not generally apply to other property in the vicinity. Every lot on Rainbow Circle does meet the development code standards for road frontage. Both the lots to the north in the subdivision and the adjacent ones created by individual plat. And because of these conditions, the applicant of this chapter to the particular piece of property would effectively prohibit or unreasonably restrict the utilization of the property. Without this variance, the applicants would not be able to subdivide their land. That would be the only restriction on this. And then the authorization of a variance will not be substantial detriment to adjacent property or to the public good. A variance would not be a substantial detriment to any of the adjacent properties, as the proposed road frontage, while irregular, will not restrict the usage of existing neighboring single-family lots. So recommended conditions of approval are here on the board. You can choose the ones that are relevant or create your own. So if, that was what I had summarized here. Do we have any questions for staff or want to review something else?
I do have a question, and I don't know if I need to ask the applicant or you have this information. Do you have the actual acreage of all 3 properties as they wish to have them subdivided? Because especially C, the one that's actually up for the variance.
That one would have, and I don't have it zoomed in, I'm remembering the entire parcel was 8.85
Right,
acres.
correct.
I believe lot C was 2 acres or
Okay.
more.
So it's 2 plus?
Yeah.
Okay, and the other ones obviously were bigger than that?
Yes.
Yeah. All right, thank you.
Do you have any other questions for staff?
How's it zoned currently?
It's RC1, sir.
Are there existing dwellings on the property?
Not on this section of property. It was all farmland or pasture land.
Okay. Would the applicant like to come forward?
Hi, my name is Donna Martin, and I live at 433 Terrapin Lane in Lake Wiley. Let's see if this is in the right place. And I'm here representing myself and my husband. We own the property that we're talking about. And the first thing I'd like to do, I noticed when I walked in there was a long list of people who have come from the neighborhood. So I'd like to apologize to you if you thought Walmart was moving in, okay? Yeah, but our intent was to try to keep the impact to the neighborhood as minimal as possible. We actually owned the piece of land up in the right-hand corner of the survey up here. And that was sold last year to, the owners are now sitting in the back, Gary and Marilyn Hoffman. They're back there. And they're interested, and actually we have a contract that no matter what happens here, we can still sell them a piece of the land. They're interested in expanding their space. So they're interested in what we have marked as B on the survey. We just submitted a plan for the parcel A that is in the front left corner for another residence. And that is gonna be, I think, a 2,400 square foot home, single home. That piece of land is 2 acres. We're looking at about 4.88 to 5 acres for Gary and Marilyn. And then parcel C, you always have a backup plan, but ideally we'd like to be able to get the variance because we do have a couple that is interested in that 2 acre piece of land, and they're interested in building a 2,700 square foot home. So the point I'm trying to make here is I think that it's gonna only benefit the neighborhood. We're not bringing in a lot of construction to build a bunch of small houses in a subdivision or anything like that. We're just trying to add a couple more residents, and I hope that if anybody was scared before they came to the meeting, that they have now switched from they're gonna challenge to yes, they hope they're gonna support. Any questions for the board?
When you laid out these 3 parcels, I mean, you have, on 557, you have almost 600 feet of frontage.
Yes.
Did you try to get, I know in our packet, we said you started out with 9 homes, you came down to 3 homes.
Yes.
Did you try to align the parcels so you could have all the access off of 557 where you wouldn't have to come for a variance, and it's still
No,
allowed, 2 acre plus lots?
Yes, well, we looked, I mean, the minimum road frontage without a variance is 350 feet. So we only had enough room for 1 house, okay, and that's why we did, and we didn't want to have to put a road in unnecessarily.
Is it 350 on 557? Is that where, okay, that's the confusion. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah, and the minimum on Rainbow
Right.
is 100.
right, because of the major artery. My bad, thank you. Sorry about that.
No problem. Anything else? Tom, do you have anything?
My name's Tom Llewellyn. My wife and I own this together. I live at 152 Alden Oaks in Clover. And what you're looking at up here on the left-hand side, the lower left, is that 2,400 square foot house is going to be for the Catholic Church. The nuns are going to build a home there, and they're going to be doing gardening and planting trees, that type of thing. On the back side, we have a young couple a guy's getting out of the military and he wants to build a house with his wife, and that'll be on the 2 acres behind the nuns, and that's the one that we would need the variance for. And everything to the right of that would be reconnected with the other piece of property to make it really close, or as close or over 10 acres as we possibly can to put it back into that residence. So there'll be just 3 pieces of property. And we did meet the minimum criteria along the main highway. The problem we had getting a road to the backside of it was the road would have to be really long and narrow to get around the property that the church has. So, and the nun said they don't party, so there's not a lot of noise in the front part. So, is there any questions? All right.
Thank you. Is there anyone here tonight that would like to speak against this application? Anyone like to speak against the application?
I'm Louis Sensitz. I live at 410 Rainbow Circle. I just got yesterday looking at this proposal. Spent the last 2 weeks with my wife having back surgery and taking care of her, so life goes on. Now, if I understand what I've heard, we have one proposal that has to do with nuns wanting to build.
Speak this way.
We have one proposal that is nuns wanting to build a house. Another proposal that it's a military retiree or a couple that wants to build a house. And then the other lot B, the Hoffmans, if I'm correct, want to expand their property and have more location. Is that what I'm understanding so far correct?
No. The intent is.
No, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, you can't answer.
Would you like to
No,
use the
no,
microphone?
no, you have a
By the
chance,
way.
you'll have a chance,
Microphone and-
ma'am.
No, I just want to be
Ma'am.
clear.
You
I
need
just
to
want to
sit
be,
You can't answer right now.
oh,
You'll get a chance.
You get a chance, and you need to address all your
Back to
questions to us, yeah.
my things then. So in order to use Lot C, and Ms. Ray, I believe, when she was speaking, she kept using the term road. And when I look at the request, it says driveway. So my one concern is, are we really speaking of a driveway in the usual sense of a driveway where a person will drive right up to their garage? Or are we referring to a road that's going to go from that little strip all the way to whatever roads get developed in the remainder of the development, whether it be one house, 2 houses, because right now we have nothing concrete that says it might be expanded to more than the residencies that we're talking about. And if that ends up being a road, which is a real short road, now we've increased the traffic flow coming into Rainbow Circle. That I don't like. I spoke to the gentleman that would be right across the street where that road would come right into his front house, and he said, yeah, I don't like that idea of having lights blinding me in my living room. He didn't get to look at this proposal either. So if it's a driveway, and you have the ability, when I read this here, to specify the terms that it remains a driveway and not a road where people are going to be traversing from the main part back and forth. You know, I'm not the one living in the house on either side. They couldn't come to an agreement. I just met Sarah today when I said, I'll go bang on some doors and find out what's going on, see who's interested. So they couldn't come to an agreement. It would have been nice. How the family decided to split that little section up in such a cockeyed manner, don't know. Water over the hill. But what I want to make sure is that it is a driveway and not a passageway that's going to bring other traffic flow down our street. And one other comment, the proposal said that no trees will be removed. And I read that and I said, wait a minute. I think I saw some trees there. So, irrelevant, but there's 3 trees that have to be removed to put your driveway there. If they're going between those 2 stakes that have the pink markers. I'm assuming that's where the markers are. And if you stand in front of it, okay, so
Okay, yeah.
you understand my only objection. I don't live in that spot where the road or the driveway's coming. I just want to make sure it's a driveway and not a road.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Lou.
No, I'm sorry. You'll get a chance to respond after everyone else has spoken. Is there anyone else that would like to speak against the application?
Good evening, my name is Michael Cheriker. I live at 150 Rainbow Circle, and I'm here to oppose what's being asked for the variance. My property is, I'm not sure how this would work. Well, is there a pointer on this? There it is. My property is right here, located right here. And I lived there with Miss Ninky, and we've been living there for almost 20 years. We moved down here to have a quiet place. I'm a disabled combat Marine. And so far, there's been a lot of building in the area. But what I'm most concerned about is that when you look at all this, it looks like it's all flat, when actually it's shaped like this. And right there where you see the creek coming down right through here, it bisects onto our property. As a matter of fact, we have two creeks that converge on our property. So everything that happens in the area comes down to our property. Sound, noise, everything comes down, but mostly water. So much so that today I spoke with Charlie McConnell, who's with the Clemson Extension, and I'm taking classes to test the creek water. I'm going to be Adopt a Creek. So I have to go to the university Saturday to take my test and get my certification. One of many, I have to take 3. And to purchase this stuff, the diagnostic equipment is $1,000 that I have to pay myself. The reason I'm concerned about this is with the homes that are being built here, with the construction and the runoff. Many times we've been told that there would be no more construction because the grandfather clauses in this. We now have 3 homes on the other side of our property. When we moved in there is none. Over here, there's 3 homes that have been freshly built, okay? And I had to get DHEC to come down there because when the guys come down there and say, we're gonna do compliance and we're gonna make sure we put up everything to stop the runoff, all of these things, none of it was ever followed. I had to take it upon myself to get down there and take the abuse from these guys who do this type of work. And then when the DHEC guy came down, he goes, well, you just need to test it yourself. And there were other things that were involved there, but I just thought, all right, so it's one of the reasons why I'm here today is because I think a lot of people don't, when they look at this, they're not really seeing how this property actually sits. Therefore, when these people are going to build a house here and a house here, if they're going to be putting in septic systems, and once those septic systems titrate down that depth, they're going to be bubbling up, because that's an aquifer right there. That pops up out of the ground, and it feeds the stream, goes right over there, and then the other stream comes from this direction across our property. Everything comes down there. The deer, the mink, the foxes, everything comes down there. And it's a good little area. Been living there for 20 years, have no problem with any of the animals or any of the creatures or anything that live down there. As a matter of fact, what I've seen is a lowering of the environment there because of the excessive building that has occurred, and which is kind of sad. And not only that, me being disabled, one of my disabilities is having PTSD. So the noise and everything else, and I thought I was going to be getting a little peace. Instead, it's just people buying properties that, I understand profitability. I can understand trying to make some money off some property. But this is without a concern, especially for this property, because it was bought at an auction. The person didn't come down here and say, oh, I'm going to develop it so it'll be nice and good for everybody that lives down here. They bought a property at an auction so they get as cheap as they could in order to increase their profits. I don't really care about it. You know, when you asked earlier, why didn't they set something up to where they could have a road right here? Because they were thinking they were going to sell the whole thing, more or less, that I'm thinking. But that didn't pan out. And then they didn't do their homework. Now they're stuck with this piece of property up here that they're trying to build a road in. And as Lewis said earlier, we're concerned that they're gonna build a road down in here and probably put the property down in here. And if you get right to there, I mean, it drops off to a sandy loam where the creek bubbles up. So I'm thinking, where's these septic systems gonna drain to? What's the quality of water gonna be? My wellhead sits right about right there where the creek comes through, about 40-something feet. When the house was built, there wasn't a whole lot of, my house was built in 1991. And Charlie's, who used to live right here, his was built, I think, in 71, that Gary and
You got 1 minute.
Bob's house is right here, that they've purchased. So my concern is that when they're building these properties, and even though somebody's gonna say, oh, we're gonna make sure that things are gonna be done right, and this is the way things are gonna be. Well, an old quote from Mark Twain himself is, it's not what you don't know that causes a problem, it's what you know for sure that just ain't so. People are paid to be professionals, but lots of times we don't have a lot of professionalism, or people follow the rules that they need to. And it seems that happens a lot in that neighborhood in a lot of these areas. Tell people they gotta follow these ordinances, follow these codes and stuff like that, but when the boys show up on the job, they don't care. They don't put down the stuff, they don't keep the silt down. That's what I had with over here when they built houses over here. I had to call DHEC up because the guys didn't put the stuff up for the silt. And there's a creek right there. And so I'm like, why aren't you concerned about this? Because, well, you know, I'll be here for a while and then I'll be gone. It won't be a problem anymore.
Sir, can I have you wrap it up?
Anyway, that's my concern. I'm worried about the water. I'm worried about the noise. And not only that, the vista right here, you can see clearly the houses right through our woods. I mean, I bought a house that was supposed to be void of that, and now I'm gonna have it. Anyway,
Okay.
thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else here to speak in opposition?
Hi, I'm Sarah Dockery. I live at 462 Rainbow, which is right next to C. Our issue with it is if they say it's gonna be a one family, but then they can turn around and put in more houses or an apartment complex or something, if it doesn't all go through how they want it to. We are afraid of the traffic coming in and out right there, just with our younger kids. And if there was any way that we could get an assurance without, we don't want to upset anyone, but we just moved there in October and we don't want to live right next to a whole development on its own. And that's our position, that we would not like it there. So,
Thank you.
So if it's a single family, you're in opposition or not?
we would be more comfortable if we could get an assurance that it was just a single family. They did offer to buy part of our roadway, but we did not agree to that. And we would not have as much as probably as long as we can have complete assurance. We didn't want, obviously, a whole bunch of people, like Lewis said, a road coming in with numerous people coming in and out at all times. Thank you.
Question for staff real quick. We don't have zoning maps in our packets.
No, not this month. Mm-mm.
We have a picture of the zoning around here. I'm talking about around it. We usually get the packet. Can we get that back? Oh.
Anyone else like to speak in opposition?
Good evening. My name's Melanie Ninke. I live at 150 Rainbow Circle. As Michael shared with you, when we were looking at the property in 2002, one of our overriding concerns was other construction in the area. And we were told no more houses could be built in what was called the Rainbow subdivision. That proved not to be true. As he explained, 3 houses were built across from us, and that's when we learned about grandfathering. And since that time, the thing that we loved about the property was the quiet, the animals, and there's been a definite increase in traffic, ATV noise, lawn equipment, you name it. And having another 2 or 3 houses, people think, well, that's not a big deal. It is a big deal. It has made quite a difference in the quality of our life. So I respectfully object to having another house built so close to us. I can understand Sarah's concern. She has small children. The construction alone is very tedious. We've had to deal with it quite a number of times since we bought our home. Thank you very much.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak in opposition to the application?
My name is Bill Cathy. I live at 641 Lakewood Road. My concern in this is that Sarah, my daughter, has just moved into this, in November of last year. They bought a home there. I'm concerned that there's going to be a lot of traffic coming in and out of there. She has 2 of my small grandchildren that live there. We're concerned about the safety. If at some point in the future trailers are moved in there or something, how much traffic is going to be coming in and out of there? What's the safety of the neighborhood going to be? So that would be my basic concern. Thank you.
Do you have anyone else who would like to speak in opposition to the application? Do you have anyone here who would like to speak in favor of the application?
Hello, everyone. My name is Esther Garneau. Right now, I live at 2403 Inkberry Court. I'm here tonight because my husband and I are the ones that would like this ordinance to go through to be able to build our home. We've been looking for land in this area for a little over a year, and we have absolutely fallen in love with this piece of property. I know one of the concerns was the trees, and that was actually one of the things that I love so much. We've actually been to this piece of land quite a few times, trying to figure out a way to design a driveway where we don't have to take down the trees. Because how I envision it is I want a tree for my 2 children. I've got a 2 and a 5-year-old, so I would love to live next to another family. But I've always envisioned having a farmhouse with a tire swing in the front yard. So I hope to be able to preserve, want to swerve in around the trees and build our house probably right around where that sea is. So I hope to have eased some people's minds. We don't want a road, we just want a single driveway for a single family home to be able to raise our children in. Thank you. I don't know if anyone had any questions.
Just to clarify, you are talking about track C, correct?
Yes, track C. Thank you.
Anyone else here to speak in favor of the application? Would you like to come back up and?
Thank you, Esther, and everybody else for your questions and concerns. I did just want you to know that the front parcel A is already sold. It's already partitioned off. It's being recorded as we speak, so there will be a house there regardless. And the land that parcel B, even if we don't get a variance and we can't do anything with that land on C, we still can parcel off B because it has the road frontage on Rainbow, and so it doesn't have any restrictions, so that land can still be parceled off. So we're really talking about just C. C is where Esther and her husband would like to build their home. We don't have a contract signed with them yet, but we're waiting for this variance process and hoping that we can work with them. We do have a backup plan, so the land won't go to waste, but you know, there is a gate there already into the property where we're asking for the variance. So trucks can already go in and out of there. It's just not a formal driveway, but the intent is to have just a driveway. And and you work around the trees. And the application did say no trees would be taken down for the driveway. It didn't say the rest of the yard, but most of it is clear anyways. So, if anybody has any questions?
South 32, 33. That's 33. Yes.
My name's Tom Llewellyn again, still live at the same place. The back gate, it'd be very easy to put a limitation of one house on that 2-acre piece of property. That's our full intent. The other part, obviously, we'd like to recombine with the other 5 acres and give about a 10-acre tract. There's not gonna be any roads coming from the back to the front on this piece of property because it just won't be owned by the same people. And we can even put that as a restriction. That's not a problem at all. So as far as the front piece of property on the upper left corner, it is extremely flat. The back part of the property has an elevation difference of about 25 feet. The property does not get into a ravine part until you get to the part where you got all the writing in the middle of the page there. It's a little bit up. That's where the ravine starts because all the fields that are there had been terraced. They've been terraced, so the water runs down and then runs down, and the field absorbs most of the moisture off of the thing anyhow. It has everything on the left-hand side was basically used for horses out near the main highway. They had horses there, stables in the woods. So if you take the 2 pieces on the left-hand side, all that's open field except for some pine trees in the middle of it and some smaller trees. Everything to the right, it looks like that little shoe, all that's open field and very flat in that area. And the house area where they currently had the house. So that whole section will be one piece of property and there'll be nothing built in that area because it's already, under the restrictions. It'll be combined with that other land. So if there's anything that needs to be addressed that we're concerned about, we can put it in some deed restrictions to meet those criteria. Any questions?
So and I don't know if the Huffmans were here, the people that have parcel B, did you mention they were here? Okay, my only question was just to ease some of the neighbors, conscience. Parcel B is gonna become part of Hoffman's property, correct?
Correct.
Right, okay, so I guess from what I'm understanding, they just wanna obviously, they just wanna keep it as land, pasture. Is that your understanding?
Yes, that's mine. I'll sit down and let them speak to you.
Well, if they feel so inclined, I just want to kind of ease some of the other
Yes,
neighbors
they wanna
that
do
they're
it.
not going to be building all these houses, because our understanding from the information we got is they are just adding land to their property.
Correct.
That there's not going to be a bunch of,
Correct.
houses that are
They wanted to
going
keep people as far away
Correct.
from them too as everybody else.
Okay.
So, yes.
Thank you.
But the reality is it's zoned RC1.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got 500 and something feet of frontage.
Correct.
So it's not a bad investment.
True.
It could be a development. But I mean, look,
Yeah, no,
you
it
look
could be.
across the road at this Source Property Management across the road. That's a pretty thick neighborhood on the other side.
Sweet.
Okay. Well, I thought he was throwing us off.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Jen, thanks. Okay, so that closes the public portion.
Motion to approve the staff conditions.
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
Yeah,
Dragon had some.
yeah, well, let us see his on, I'm sorry, I apologize. Yeah, I understand the concern, but all that property, I wanna meet this guy that walks out there and tells everybody, because, I own land and I've sold land and stuff, and, just telling everybody, that's not gonna be developed next to you. Because as long as everybody keeps moving to York County, it's gonna be developed. So, so anybody that tells you that, you better look at him sideways, because somebody's blind. But anyway, that back property is zoned RC1, but if they're willing to put a condition on, that it's just gonna be one house on that front C lot, then there's no concern about a road coming through there. I mean, I'm seeing it that way, but I do see that the ability, with the bigger track, the Hoffman track, that's got frontage out on 557, you could put a small subdivision in there.
It's not up for variance.
But it's zoned for it. You buy beside it, if you're the land probably gonna be primary, you need to be checking the zoning and the property around you, if that's your concern, before you buy it. I would.
Just touching on a few points that, one of the neighbors brought up about, the runoff. I don't know if y'all dealt with York County and their stormwater deal lately, but those guys are, pretty on top of their job. Here recently, I can't speak for years past, but, those boys take it very seriously, and with septic tanks, DHEC's gotta approve that, so, if there's an issue out there, they're gonna find it, so.
Yeah, because I do see a hardship with them doing something with this lot, because they've got 160 feet back on Rainbow, so that, on the other tract of land, so that's one driveway, right, staff? And so, out on 557 for the other piece, you're okay. But in the state, is it 320 or, is 320 or three, how much is it?
350.
Is it 350 on a major arterial?
On the major road.
Yeah, okay. But that meets frontage requirements to do something with. If you wanted to, cut it up one more time. No, you can't?
No, you don't have enough road frontage there
No.
to cut it again.
It's too short.
I'm still got 150 on the brain, okay.
Yeah, same here. I had to.
Yeah.
Is this part of the Lake Wiley overlay or not? Too far out? Okay.
This is close.
But it was
I
part
have,
of,
I have a little trouble with the hardship because Lot C does not exist yet. So that is the hardship there. The overall property has the required frontages. Now, that might be the lesser of two evils because that's better than a subdivision going in. But as a board, we're creating a non-conforming lot, and historically, we have tried not to do that.
If you were to cut, you were to bring this line on across, you still got access to that back track from there now. It's just to make that third lot, but, like they said earlier, you could cut a road down to this thing and put as many mobile homes in there as you wanted to at RC1.
Yeah, that's right,
Like
that's
you
right.
said, this is
This is the lesser of two evils, most likely, but we're
Right.
creating a non-conforming lot. It's just food for thought.
That's a good point.
However, I think splitting it off, splitting C off does improve or lessen the potential of the concerns that the neighbors have, actually, in the long run.
and they
I
did.
don't disagree with that at all, but is that what we're here for?
So which criteria are you saying it does not meet?
I'm saying it does not meet a hardship, because Lot C does not exist yet. They have plenty of frontage. That property could be used for a number of things without a variance.
Yeah.
But
But like staff pointed out, there is a hardship of kind of what was left over of
Right.
the way it got cut out
Yes.
on that road frontage
Yeah, because remember the front lot is so.
to access from the backside. Now I get what you're saying, we're making a lot with that access,
they're making,
but
it's
technically
not
it's got
hardship.
access there
Well-
now, so.
That's right.
It's like a catch-22. If we don't give it to them, then they could go to a backup plan, which brings a number of anything in there. Therefore, the surrounding neighbors will feel like, hey, we've been impacted more negatively by doing that. But if you create the non-conforming lot, if you create the non-conforming lot with C, and they buy it, and they build on it, you've blocked off one end, so that takes some potential of that away. But to your point, you still gotta, if they combine B and Hoffman's lot, that's still a lot of land with a lot of road frontage, so to your point, I mean, they're still gonna have that uncertainty either way. Because if they decide to move the Hoffmans, let's move and go away, someone else buys it, they could do exactly what the neighbors are concerned about tonight.
But you know, if they had sold B as well as, is that right, number B? Yeah. If they had sold B, they've already sold A.
I mean, frankly, they could have marketed A and C together,
Yeah.
and it has the frontage, but actually put the drive off of Rainbow. I mean, there's a ton of ifs.
Right.
But what's the
But you still
hardship?
have an access off Rainbow.
That's right, that's right. I mean, there's a ton of ifs.
Yeah. Except this one's sold. I guess, can you create a hardship on yourself and then come get a variance for it? Well, I mean, that's really what.
And are we allowed to put conditions on it where it restricts what they can do with B? Are we able to do that? And if not, then the neighbors still leave with that big question, what happens down the road?
Guys, you mean as far as future development B?
Yeah,
It's
if B and the
it's
Hoffman's
5,
land,
6 acres. Are you saying cut a road in there and split off of it or something like that?
well, if the Hoffmans are getting B and it's combined with theirs, then there's a lot of potential of what can happen with
Yeah,
that.
but you're back here on Rainbow Circle at 100 foot a cut, so I mean.
It's not gonna happen.
But again, we need to focus on C.
And the hardship.
Yes, and the hardship. Because B's already done. It's taken,
Yeah.
that's not what's in front of us. And, was the hardship based on, from the current owners, or was it based on the previous owner who sold it, the way it was?
When they sold it as a single tract, there was not a hardship.
Right.
But again, that decision could be to the detriment of the community.
Right.
We have the motion, right, in a second? Do we have any conditions
Well,
on
what
this?
are all the conditions that's,
My motion includes staff.
Oh, did, okay.
Which would make both tracks comply with RC1 zoning. And as far as dwellings per track and all that good stuff. So, everybody that was concerned about multiple dwellings going in there.
Mobile homes aren't allowed in RC1, are they? Or are they?
No,
They're not allowed in
No.
I'm
RC1.
thinking RC1, sorry.
And not apartments either, correct? I mean, nothing multiple dwelling, just single family.
No, one house per platted lot, so they couldn't do multiple homes on the lot.
Right.
Even if it was 4 or 5 acres, you're permitted one house per platted lot.
Okay.
Any more discussion?
you did put a forth a motion to approve with staff conditions?
Yes.
So the motion is to approve with the staff conditions. All those in favor, raise your right hand.
Let's do it.
All those against? Motion passes. Okay, next case is Z 21-9. I'll give a moment for everybody to kind of move out.
Sorry, John. Good point, though.
He's right, he's right.
Yeah.
If somebody can contest it in an ALJ, you're not here, they'll win. They'll win. Now, but you're right, it was
Wait a
the
minute.
right thing to do.
Wait a minute. Did you vote against?
Oh, did I check the wrong thing? I voted for it, sorry.
Without a variance, applicants not be able to easily subdivide their land. I probably not use that one anymore because I got a bunch of land that's in that category. And can we please get the zoning map back in there? Thank you.
Y'all do know in York County, when they came with zoning in '87, you basically came down to the courthouse and you picked what you wanted, because I did. There was no plan, there was no nothing, so the reason he was asking for what zone, I want that too. Because what's around it is important, because it's a crappy job was done when zoning went in. There was no plan.
All right.
All right, next case is
You're waiting so patiently.
Z21-9.
Yes,
Kip
that's correct.
Goldhammer.
Good evening, I'm Rachel Grothy, zoning administrator at the county. So this is a variance request at 398 Fisher Road in Fort Mill. It is a variance to rear yard setback. So the project site is an approximately 10,000 square foot lot in the planned development zone district. The site is within phase 1 of the Fallbrook subdivision, which is part of the Regent Park master plan. The master plan contains a mix of uses including single family, commercial, townhomes, multifamily, and open space. Phase 1 of Fallbrook includes 55 single-family lots with an average lot area of 11,326 square feet. The subject parcel is lot number 35 and is located almost mid-block between Becker Avenue and the cul-de-sac termination of Fisher Road. The lot contains one 3,721 square foot single-family home that was constructed in 2007. The surrounding neighborhood consists entirely of single-family dwelling units. The property owners are seeking a variance to the required 15-foot rear yard setback in order to construct a 14 by 32-foot in-ground swimming pool and spa. So specifically, the pool is proposed to be 10 feet from the rear property line, encroaching 5 feet into the required rear yard setback. So this drawing isn't exactly to scale, but the pool will be 5 feet from the existing house and 10 feet or greater from the side property lines. The swimming pool will be surrounded by a 3-foot wide standard brush concrete deck. The project also includes the removal of an existing 240 square foot rear deck. The deck will be replaced with a 6-foot wide wheelchair ramp, which will provide access to the backyard and proposed swimming pool. So in advance of this request, the property owners installed a 6-foot tall privacy fence along the side property lines. They have also been in contact with the homeowners to the rear with their intent to construct a pool. The rear homeowners have indicated that they did not want a privacy fence installed along the shared rear property line as a matter of visual preference. So here are just some additional photos of the backyard that the owner provided. And then just to give you a little bit of background and some context, the owners want to construct the pool for their disabled child to use for hydrotherapy purposes. So it is worth noting that the owners looked into a variety of pool sizes before settling on their current choice. So one of the main reasons that this pool was chosen was for the hot tub. So the proposed dimensions and configuration of the hot tub will allow the child to access the tub independently. So this is sort of a new thing that we've started since I have arrived, going through the findings for variance. So this is just to help you all out in your analysis and decision-making process. So there are 4 specific findings, and we've listed them up here on the screen. So the first being that there are extraordinary and exceptional conditions pertaining to the property. So based on the current layout of the property and dimensions of the pool, the proposed pool cannot be located elsewhere on the site. Any other location on the site would trigger a variance to setbacks. So the second finding indicates that these conditions do not generally apply to other property in the vicinity. So an aerial survey of the lots on the same block and the lots to the block at the rear reveal that out of the 16 lots, 11 appear to have a large enough rear setback in which to accommodate a pool. Of the 16 lots surveyed, 5 lots, which includes the project site, do not appear to have enough room to accommodate a pool while meeting the required rear setback. So therefore, the smaller setback condition does not apply to the majority of properties in the vicinity. And then the third finding is that because of the smaller backyard, the property owner is prohibited in the utilization of their property. Without a variance to the rear yard setback, the property owners will not be able to construct a greatly needed pool for their child. The property owners, the proposed pool is considered standard in shape and size and will allow for the reasonable utilization of the property. And then finally, in granting the variance, the granting of the variance will not cause harm to surrounding properties and the public good. So in looking at this proposal, the variance will not be of a substantial detriment to any adjacent properties, as there virtually will not be a significant difference between the pool being located 10 feet from the rear property line as opposed to 15 feet. The pool will be located behind an existing house and will not be visible from the street. As such, there will be no harm done to the public good or character of the district by the granting of the requested variance. And then another thing that we're gonna start doing is providing conditions of approval for y'all to take a look at. So in the event that you determine that the findings can be met, I've provided these conditions of approval and you can choose to amend them as you see fit. So I'm available to answer any questions that y'all may have. I know that the property owners are here, but this concludes my presentation.
So if we were to approve this, we would have to edit your 5th condition? Is that right? Because we're gonna be 10 foot. Right?
That's just equipment.
That's just the equipment.
Oh, the equipment,
Yeah, it's
okay.
pool and spa equipment.
Okay, I'm thinking equipment, is in all of it. Okay.
And maybe there is, I guess, a little error, but it just says 15, it doesn't specify feet or anything.
I'm having a hard time understanding
I'm
you.
sorry, I
It's okay.
apologize.
I don't
If you
realize
look
I
at line
relived.
5, it just says 15.
In the report?
It doesn't say
In your
feet,
condition.
inches,
Oh, it's
yards.
probably, it's 15, thank you.
Right.
15 feet.
We all knew what it was.
Yeah. Could be hands, you don't know.
So yes, 15 feet.
It means you have to have 16 pieces of equipment. Just joking. Okay, would the applicant like to come up?
I do have one question.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, the seventh condition, prior to building permit, final all agreed upon rear landscaping shall be installed. Is that typical to put the landscape in after the pool is? I mean, I don't know where the equipment's coming, I mean,
I think they're just saying final, before you get a CO, pretty much, it's gotta be landscape. Before they.
oh, the
they
permit
stamp it
final,
approved, before
okay.
it's final.
Gotcha, building permit, missed that, okay. For some reason I read it when the pool was final, so.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen of the board. Thank you, Rachel, for putting that together, and it was the good work on that, and thanks, Asia, for all your help putting this together. My name is Kip Goldhammer, and I live at 398 Fisher Road in Fort Mill, South Carolina. And I'm here representing my family back there, my wife and Connor, and his twin sister Kaylee. So we're here requesting a 5-foot variance so that we can put the pool 10 feet from the back property line instead of 15 feet. We have plenty of room lengthwise to abide by the 10-foot side setbacks. Without the variance, we can't fit the pool that we need for our son's needs. We spent a lot of time looking for the right model pool that would fit our son's needs for hydrotherapy. Just so you guys know, my son's condition is called osteogenesis imperfecta. Which is also known as brittle bones, and he's had a few hundred broken bones in his life, and multiple surgeries to put metal rods into his bones to help him not break as much. Regular exercise in an aquatic medium is recommended for people with OI. I have a couple letters, one from his therapist and one from his doctor that's out in Omaha that we have to go see. That if you guys want, I can provide those to you, that state that aquatherapy is one of the best therapies for children with his condition. The partial weight bearing environment is very important to their therapeutic goals, allowing Connor to build strength, endurance, flexibility, and confidence without fear of falling. Also, the temperature in the therapeutic water aids in relaxation of tight muscles. So the reasons for this specific pool, the specific model that we would like to install is called the Regal by Tallman Pools. We chose fiberglass over concrete because it's less abrasive on his skin, and the pool was also chosen for multiple other reasons. The shallow end depth is optimal for his height, so that he can actually walk, which he, as you see, he's in a wheelchair. He doesn't generally walk, but in the water he can actually walk. So the shallow end is the right height for him to be able to do some walking therapy. Also, the deep end has seating so that if he gets fatigued on the deep end, he can go to one of the seats in the corners and rest. And then the spa is accessible from the pool, so it's built into the pool. We looked at other options where it was going to be like separated from the pool, and he wouldn't have any way to really get from the spa to the pool with those options. So the spa can be used for muscle therapy, and it can also be used to heat the pool in order to extend the amount of time that we can use that pool throughout the year. So we also anticipated this question may come up. We do have a public pool there, but Connor is very high risk for COVID-19. The number one cause of death for people with OI is respiratory disorders. So we try not to be in public places as much as possible with him. Crowds are not a good idea. A small bump or an accidental kick can break his bones. He's that breakable. And also, like, I don't know if you've been to a public pool, but flying objects, frisbees, footballs, other pool toys, they can cause Connor serious injury. So that was my presentation. I did have one question about the conditions of approval, kind of like was asked earlier, where it said prior to building permit final, all agreed upon rear landscaping shall be installed. So I wasn't sure if that meant that because we do plan on putting trees along the back fence line for privacy reasons, which the neighbor behind me, he would prefer that rather than putting another privacy fence there. But we would need to put that in after the pool is installed, because there's not enough room width-wise for them to get the equipment and stuff in there. So if we put the trees in there first, then that's gonna really limit their ability to get the equipment in there and install the pool. So, if it's meant to be there before we install the pool, I'd like to request that we change that so that, maybe we get the trees installed within a month after the pool gets installed or something. If you, see fit to approve it. And that's it. You guys have any questions?
I believe that means final inspection. Yeah, that's not, that doesn't mean, that means after the pool's in and all the equipment is up and running, before your final inspection, they sign off to allow you to use it is when they're saying the landscaping needs to be in.
Perfect.
Okay.
That would work.
Do we have anybody to speak for or against this application? Seeing none, we'll close the public portion of this application.
If you do make a motion to approve, you may want to specify the 15 on number 5.
The feet.
If you make a
15
motion
feet.
to approve, just make sure you reference 15 feet
Oh.
from status condition versus just 15 from what you got.
He wants to be 10 feet, right?
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, but
That's the pool equipment.
Pool equipment, stuff that's above ground.
Okay. I'm gonna make a motion to approve, so we can discuss it. How about that?
With conditions?
With conditions.
I'll second.
Now, is he gonna be 10 feet back,
The conditions including 15 feet.
including 15 feet? That's what I wanna talk about.
On number 5, yeah. The pool's at 10,
Is he gonna be 5 feet away from the fence or 10 feet away?
10.
10.
With 10,
Okay.
they're saying that the pool equipment, like the pump and stuff like that, has to be 15.
15.
Is what that's saying.
Which is where it would have to be anyways.
Yeah.
So the pool equipment's just not
He's
getting,
gonna be up against the house.
Right. Or somewhere.
Or somewhere in the yard, away from the,
But they're just trying to keep everything that's above ground essentially still outside of that 15-foot requirement.
All right. Okay.
any further? Do we have a second?
I did.
Tony did.
Any
I
further?
think we have a definite hardship here.
Yeah.
I usually don't get on board with these, but I
Yeah.
can get on board with this one.
Yeah.
So, I still think it's hard when you're squeezing a 3,700 square foot house on a 10,000 square foot lot, but we have a definite hardship, so.
Right.
I will.
And I think they went through all the motions to try to get it to fit, and, you know, obviously this is the best pool for the therapy, and
Right.
so I think it's good. Any other discussion?
Okay, no further discussion. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion passes.
Enjoy the pool. You too.
Okay, the last application is Z21-10.
All right, so we have another pool in front of y'all, but this time this is over at 2680 Island Cove Road in Fort Mill. The zoning is rural development, and the owner is requesting a variance to the 50-foot Lake Wiley buffer. So the project site is an approximately 26,571 square foot lot in the rural development zone district. The lot is also located within the scenic overlay district along the shores of Lake Wiley. The subject parcel is located approximately mid-block between the start of Island Cove Road and the cul-de-sac termination. The parcel contains one 5,000 square foot single family home, that was constructed in 2017, along with associated utilities, including an on-site septic system and drain field. The surrounding neighborhood consists entirely of single-family dwelling units. The property owners are seeking a variance to the required 50-foot Lake Wiley buffer in order to construct a 15 by 30-foot pool and deck area. So specifically, the pool will be located 45 feet from the 570 topo line, encroaching 5 feet into the required Lake Wiley buffer. It will be 60 feet from the house, with the pool deck directly abutting the drain field. The proposed location of the pool was selected by the property owners due to the location of the existing drain field. The drain field is approximately 35 feet by 80 feet, so it takes up the majority of usable backyard area. As reported by the property owners, prior to construction of the house, a percolation test was conducted on the site, and the location of the drain field was selected due to the soil quality of the site. According to DHEC, a 15-foot setback is recommended between a drain field and a pool. So given the location of the existing drain field and the 50-foot Lake Wiley buffer, the property owner has an approximately 20-foot wide strip in which to locate a pool and deck. The pool will be built into the downslope of the site. So due to the topography, the pool will be exposed on 3 sides, and all exposed areas will be clad in decorative stone. A pool deck is proposed around 3 sides of the pool, so a 10-foot wide section along the house side, and then 5 feet wide sections along the sides, and decking is not proposed on the side closest to the lake. In addition to the pool, but not requiring a variance, the property owners plan to install a rain garden with decorative landscaping around the proposed pool, and this is to help mitigate the proposed encroachment. So here are just some additional renderings showing the pool with the proposed landscaping. Looks like it's around 3 sides. Okay, so moving forward with the findings. So the first finding that we're going to look at is that there needs to be extraordinary and exceptional conditions pertaining to the property. So based on the current layout of the property and the dimensions of the desired pool, the proposed pool cannot be located elsewhere on the lot. The location of the existing drain field and the buffer area significantly limit where the pool can be located. The only developable area is an approximately 20-foot wide strip located about mid-backyard. And then the second finding indicates that these conditions do not generally apply to other property in the vicinity. So in looking at the original subdivision map from 1978 that created the subject lot and surrounding lots, it was noted that lot 46, which is the project site, is significantly smaller in area than the surrounding lots. So that's what that is there. So the subject lot, as outlined in red, is the smallest and most narrow lot on the original subdivision map. Therefore, the smaller lot size condition of the subject lot does not apply to any of the properties in the vicinity. Moving on to number 3, the third finding is that because of the smaller lot size and location of the drain field, the property owner is unreasonably restricted in the utilization of their property. Without a variance to the buffer setback, the property owners will not be able to construct the pool as proposed. While the proposed pool is standard in size and shape, given the customization factor, the property owner could redesign the pool in such a way that would be outside the required buffer. And then moving into the last finding, the granting of the variance will not cause harm to surrounding properties and the public good. So in looking at this proposal, the variance will not be of substantial detriment to any adjacent properties, as the proposed pool will not encroach into any required side yard setbacks. The pool will be located behind an existing house and will not be visible from the street. So as such, there will be no harm to the character of the district by granting the variance. The pool will encroach into the buffer area, which was established to promote the public good. And then moving on to recommended conditions of approval. So in the event that y'all find that you can make the findings for this variance, I've gone ahead and put together some conditions of approval, and I am just noticing on number 5, it just says 15 instead of 15 feet. So I'll clarify that now. But this concludes my presentation. If y'all have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer them, and the property owner is here as well.
I have a question for you. Can you go back 2 slides, please? Okay.
Where, here?
No, go forward. Okay. B. Original subdivision map shows that the subject lot is significantly smaller in area than all surrounding lots. So let me ask this the right way. So those are your words, correct?
Yes.
Okay, go forward or right here. So we probably technically really could sit here and debate all night the meaning of significantly smaller.
Yeah, that's a fair
Because
statement.
we're talking about 0.61, 0.74, 0.83. So how do you come to the assumption that this is significantly smaller? Because we're not talking about 5 acres versus 10, 20, and 15. We're talking about fractions.
Well, I mean, I hate to say it, but I guess that's for y'all to debate and figure out what you feel comfortable with what your sort of definition of that is. And also, I think it's worth noting too that this lot is more narrow than all of the other lots in the original subdivision as well. And, you know, and when you're talking about, you know, fractions and things that are much smaller, it really is, you know, the smaller amounts, like a smaller amount can make a big difference, if that makes sense.
I have a question.
Yes.
On page 64 of our packet, it says that according to DHEC, a 15-foot setback is recommended between a drain field and a swimming pool. Now, is that just the pool itself, or does that include the deck that goes around the...
Just the pool itself.
Just the pool.
I actually called DHEC, I needed an education, and I called them and asked them, and right now it's a 15-foot recommendation. Their laws or rules or ordinances are in the process of being debated at the state
Revised
or somewhere.
or
Yes.
So right
so it's
now
going
it's
to change
only
to 5.
So right now it's only 10 feet based on the, you know, the diagram that we got, correct?
Wait, I'm sorry, one more time?
Okay, so you're saying DHEC recommends 15 feet
Yes.
between the drain field and the pool?
Yes.
According to the diagram we have, which the deck pretty much right abuts to the drain field.
Yes.
And that's 10 feet from the pool.
Yeah.
So you're talking he's off by about 5 feet from what DHEC is recommending, correct? Can
Yes,
I assume?
based on the math, yes.
Okay, and I did have one other question. What was this repair area septic? Why that? Gotcha, okay, thank you
It's
for the
what?
clarification. In case they have to do something with the septic, they have a repair area, which you can't probably.
One more page.
I'm sorry, what?
I was asking her to just go back.
Okay, I'll think of my other question, but let these other gentlemen, they can ask if they have something.
So
I heard one on D that hit me funny, was that the variance setback, you talked about people riding down the street wouldn't be able to see the pool, and therefore it wasn't detrimental. On river property, it's all across the state of South Carolina, they're considering the view from the river riding by in a boat. So did staff consider what it looks like? These swimming pools and stuff lined up from riding by in a boat?
Well, I mean, I think that's sort of been thought about in the design of the project with all of the landscaping and the decorative stone and that sort of thing.
I remember my question.
Okay.
So because the pool is elevated, does this require a fence around it?
That's a good question, I don't know.
Okay, I can maybe ask the applicant, or does anybody staff know? Other staff? Okay.
That's a state law, isn't it?
I would thought,
Insurance requirement.
Yeah, you get sued if a kid falls in it, yeah.
right, but it's elevated, so I didn't know, but there's there's steps, so
It depends what the elevation is.
But
okay.
DHEC's saying 10 feet, how would a pool affect the drain field?
Well, I called and talked to them, and the gentleman who I spoke with was just saying, you know, stuff happens and things fail and you're not gonna want that close to it. And then he talked about, you know, cause you have to dig down really far for the pool, and about how that could have some sort of an impact on the actual drain field. And so their recommendation is 15 feet to try to avoid those types of problems.
But did I hear you right, that they're working on getting it changed to 5?
No, well, I misspoke. You did hear me right.
So now wait, I'm confused.
So the recommendation is 15, and they're working on making that a rule.
Okay.
That it has to be 15,
Gotcha.
not we're gonna recommend that.
So now it's just a recommendation.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so there must be a reason why they're gonna try to make it a rule, so, okay.
But as of right now, it's not a rule.
It's not.
That's correct.
Right.
And as of right now, we're at 10.
And right now, we're at 10, because deck does not include that, it's the actual pool. Okay. I think that's all the questions I have.
Anything else?
I assume you're the applicant, so
Yeah, I'd like to speak forward, please. My name is Ken Starnes, and I live at 2680 Island Cove Road, and I'd like to thank y'all for just giving me an opportunity to speak, to start with, and hear my variance request. I'd also like to thank those two ladies there, because I'm telling you, I'm technically challenged on a good day, and some of this material was a little bit daunting for me, and so they walked me through it, and I'm very grateful for their help, because it meant a lot. I really appreciate it. I clearly do not have a hardship like those other people did. And mine is just logistics, purely logistics. I do have a small lot. It is 0.61 of an acre, and you asked, Mr. Williams, and I certainly can appreciate your question about how is it significantly smaller. Well, my variance request is 300 square feet. My adjacent property owner is I think it's 0.74. So that's woefully less what I'm asking for than the difference in the size of the lot. That's almost not that'd be about 8/10 of an acre more than they have than I do. So it's really just logistics. I'm on my house, the lot is from front to back, is downslope obviously to the lake, and it is pie shaped. We're almost lot line to lot line as far as the building pad. And the only place I had for the drain field was exactly what is shown on the drawing. And so it just left a sliver. It basically left a sliver less to potentially put in a pool. And like Rachel said, I called DHEC here in York County. I called in Columbia and talked to them. And currently there are no guidelines in terms of requirements where the drain field has to be in relationship to a pool. They said they are talking about it, but they don't have anything in stone. Their recommendation, both on the local level and at the state level, and I talked to them, they said, we would just recommend it be 15 feet. Again, it's very tight. And there's some renderings, I don't know that I think y'all have in your packet, that I was trying to show that where I actually went out and staked out and flagged out the pool itself, and then also the pool deck, and put a lounge chair on it. So you can kind of give it some perspective. And once you open up the lounge chair, there's very, very little room to even walk around it. That's the reason I was only looking to try to get 10 feet of decking on one side if possible. But at the end of the day, it's just small. It's just a small area. Try to shoehorn one in if possible. It's our dream home. We've been there 4 years. It'll be our forever home until we get called home. And we have 5 children. 3 they're out of the house. 2 that are in the house. There's conversation about grandchildren in the very near future. We're hopeful that comes to fruition, so this is just another hook to get the kids to keep coming back. Plain and simple, plus us wanting to be there and enjoy it, but just have our family around us and have a family retreat. And so that's what this is for, and I'm a landscape contractor by trade. We had proposed a rain garden to be around at least 3 sides of it. And what we've already proposed on there is, I think, 800 or 900 square feet. And again, we're only asking for 300. But I'd be willing to do most anything would be amenable to the board, to help mitigate any kind of runoff or drainage, if the rain garden needs to be bigger or larger. And of course, any buffering between the neighbors. I have a letter from either neighbor on either side in support of our request. So, we're just looking for an avenue to make this to come to fruition if possible. So I'm amenable to doing any and everything possible at whatever the board's recommendation would be. That's really it. I don't have a whole lot more I can add other than I respectfully ask y'all to consider my request, and if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer.
I have a question for staff. So obviously the pool cannot be in that 5 feet, but also the decking around the pool cannot be in that Lake Wiley buffer, correct? Right. Okay, I just want to clarify that. Okay.
And currently, there are no trees on the lot based on the pictures. Everything coming down from the house is all grassed.
Yeah, it's all sodded. It's all sodded and irrigated. There was very little trees on the property when we bought it. What we cleared was where the house pad is.
You had conveniently staked out a number of different lines with different colors. I believe one of them was, you have to have the 570 line.
The 570 is blue flagging. If you can see it, it's not the best picture in the world. But the blue flagging is 5 feet inside the orange square box, if you will, which would represent the footprint of the pool and the pool itself. And then the white outline box, if you will, the flagging that is the proposed pool deck. And the pink flags represent the edge, the lowest line, if you will, on the drain field. So it's almost touching. Well, it's touching basically where the pool deck would be.
Do you have a feel for the drop in grade from your pool deck to the 570 line?
I'm sorry, sir?
What's the delta, what's the difference in grade between where your pool deck will be and the 570 line?
Oh, yes, sir. Everything's on the downslope.
Yeah, but I mean, do you know the
do I know the
approximate?
Elevation?
It's the approximate elevation of the pool deck.
I'm sorry?
Approximate elevation of the pool deck.
Is it 2 feet, 6 feet?
I would say above the 570, the pool deck is probably maybe 5 or 6 feet.
Okay.
Probably 5 feet from the 570.
I have a question. Have you, when you were doing these renderings, did you consider bringing the pool, I mean, you have a beautiful deck with the, in our rendering with the chase lounge, which I think is at 10 feet worth of space there.
Yeah.
Bringing the pool in and maybe extending more of the deck to the side where you had more room. I mean, this is a beautiful layout, but to me, they're just by reading and seeing what I see here, you could possibly go sideways rather than forward and maybe get your pool in there without having to have a variance and not going past the buffer. And I'm asking you what.
That's a fair question.
Yeah.
I will try to answer that as
Sure.
best I can. When you come out the back of the house, everything is downhill at that point, from there to the water. So even, I really didn't even want any decking to speak of, other than maybe just an apron. And because I've got sod all the way around it. The problem is, it's on a downslope, so I've got to get down to it, there's gotta be a directional wall that's on that rendering, which that will be a curtain wall, if you will, between me and the drain field to help potentially mitigate any potential bleed out, which I think that's why they want you at least 10 or 15 feet away from it. So I've gotta step through that wall, I gotta create that wall, because it's down like this, I gotta step through steps down to that deck. So it's not, because of the grade is more than anything. Can we shorten that span up a little bit? Maybe, but it's really a directional wall that I have to walk through because everything from my house down to the pool is down this way, if you will.
To her point, if you look at the rendering, if you look at all of this space, now to me, looking at it, it appears that you want the chairs turned that way because you want to enjoy the view of looking at the lake.
Yes, sir.
Because this is what's out here.
Yes, sir.
But if you, to her point, you can keep that wall, push that pool closer to that wall, which might get you out of the setback, and couple feet that way, couple feet that way, and put the chairs to the side. You're still gonna see that you're just not pointing directly at the lake. So it appears that sitting here, there are options without a variance, but if you are the homeowner, hey, I want the best view sitting here, and it's pointing that way, and in order to give me that, I gotta get into this setback. Versus if the pool is really what I want, I can put the chairs to the side and push the pool closer and get out of the setback.
Okay.
I mean, you said you were open for suggestions.
No, I am, no, I certainly am. I am for sure.
Well, that puts, the problem is
I
that
agree,
that
I
brings
understand what you're saying.
the recommendations 15 feet for,
Well, but the wall's
hear me
still
out.
there.
It's 15 feet from the,
This doesn't move the wall.
but it brings the pool
Closer to the drain field.
closer to the drain field. Because I thought the same thing.
Is the wall 15 feet from, or are you counting the actual edge of the pool, or is the wall 15 feet?
No, the wall is abutted, the wall would be abutted to the drain field.
To the drain field.
It would be abutted to it. It's really the 10 feet of that pool deck is really, they say they recommend 15. Between the wall probably about 2 feet wide, and the pool deck is 10, so that's 12. So I'm still not quite what they recommend, but again, it's a recommendation at this point.
Yeah, essentially to get out of the buffer, it'd have to be a narrower pool. And it's already a fairly narrow pool.
Yeah.
Right.
Currently.
Well, the other thing too, is and it's pretty with stone, I would rather have stone, but if you decked it, you can put the deck right on top of the drain field.
Well,
Sir?
You can put the deck right on top of the drain field. But I understand it's the stone stuff.
let's keep it to questions right now, and we can debate.
say this wall's a curtain drain?
Well, I'm gonna put it, because I'm on the downslope, even if there wasn't a drain field there, I would put a curtain drain or a drain behind it to catch any water that migrates to the hill. And, if by chance something were to happen, it would hopefully, it would intercept and take it around.
Any other questions? Thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you very much for your time.
Anyone for or opposed? Seeing none, public portion is closed.
No one here. So you're looking for a motion?
For motion. I do have a question back to staff. So in the list of conditions, the 15 with equipment, feet, is that applicable here?
Yeah, it was in the conditions.
No, but I mean, is it still applicable? Because that's, I mean, we really don't have a rear.
Well, the idea is that it is set back from any of the two neighbors, so it doesn't,
Okay, so you're thinking more of the side yard. Okay, gotcha.
All right, I'm gonna get discussion going here. I make a motion to deny the variance.
I'll second it. Oh, okay.
The problem is, I know the applicant has worked with all the, variables on his yard to try to get this pool in. We have to go by the 4 criterias, and C is the one that I really have a hard time justifying to grant this variance. Because of these conditions, the application of this chapter to the particular piece of property would effectively prohibit or unreasonably restrict the utilization of the property. It says, based on what staff was saying, the property owners could redesign the swimming pool in such a way that would be outside of the required buffer. Yes, it might prohibit to utilize the property with a pool, but, and maybe that's what we're talking about here, but I just think that I just always have a problem trying to fit a beautiful big pool in a piece of property that just, it doesn't fit. And so now we have to allow them the extra feet so they can get their beautiful pool in. It's not a necessity. I see it as recreational. I just have a problem with it. So, I don't know if anybody else wants to add to it or argue against it.
There's not a hardship.
Yeah.
It can still be built. It can be built differently. And, I didn't pass the Lake Wiley buffer ordinance, but the county council did, and said they didn't want to stuff in. You got your setbacks, they're in set by the county council. And, cause I can't understand anybody, I have to be honest, fella, why in the world you live at the river if you want a pool? Come in the river. Come in the river, yeah. I'm just like, so I've never ever got to go to the river and build a pool, huh? If I lived in town, I'd understand it. But, I hate this lot, it's too small, and if it's too small, you have a smaller pool. It's, this is a necessity. The other one, is different. So, I don't know, do you see the hardship here? Mr. Hardship?
In general, no, I don't necessarily see the hardship. I think it's an improvement to the property, and I think the fact that they're willing to put in a rain garden and do some things to mitigate, I think that makes somewhat of a difference.
Mm-hmm.
Aesthetically, I think it's an improvement for the boaters passing by and looking at that nice pool, but, if it was treed, it'd be a little bit different in my opinion, but since it's not treed, the biggest part of the buffer, in my opinion, was, is
Irrigation control or erosion control, yeah.
Erosion control, nutrient, protect the water, right? Well,
Isn't a lot of that
right now it's
water
just
quality?
water quality.
That's what
That was the biggest reason for the buffer. There's an opportunity if this work is done, there's an improvement to the water quality. But does that create a hardship? No.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like the other one when I brought up the hardship.
Yeah.
It's, what's the,
Well, when I was first on this board 10 years ago, we approved a bunch of pools. And we were kind of like, oh, come on, let them do it. And the next thing you know, I can't remember how many cases, but the cases started pouring in, and actually one of the council members filed against the ZBA. And those were reversed. Wow. All the pools. And I really felt sorry for the people that did them because they were halfway invested, some of them. Yeah. So I've always, with the pools on the rivers, I've always kind of remembered that.
Yeah, I hear you.
Past experience. It'd be bad enough if you can't have one, it'd be bad enough to halfway build that, take it out. Which two did.
Well, and also on the applicant's questionnaire on 4, I mean, he's basically said, attached are computer-generated renderings of the pool along with actual photos. He said why he put it there, added cost 75,000, 15 by 30 is a small, medium pool, any smaller the cost changes, therefore little, not making it worthwhile project. So, I mean, he could put a smaller pool in, we can't, I mean, I can't base my decision on how much it's gonna cost him, but
A 10-foot wide pool's gotta be a hardship though, right?
You could dive across.
I just-
It doesn't provide a whole lot of swimming room.
These drain fields, I mean, I could just, this hardship, I mean, I can argue that that's a hardship, where these drain fields are. You know, he's trying to get away from them. 570 zone, trying to, I'm all about the trees in the 570 line. But, I mean, right here, I've actually, do you have do you have one of those lawnmowers that cuts your grass? Yes, I thought this yard looked familiar. The robot lawnmower. And that thing's like this. So, I mean, I could, a curtain drain, I mean, I could see that improving.
Okay.
And aesthetically,
question is,
it'll be a significant improvement.
Without this variance, does he have no option to have a swimming pool? And if that answer is, if this variance totally negates his ability to have a swimming pool because of the drain field and whatever other circumstances maybe, but without this variance, maybe he can't build this, but can he build something back there? And that may be some of what you give up when you pick a lot and it has certain restrictions. I can't just have an open, blank canvas.
Well, then you can also argue when he was building his house, if he knew he wanted to put a pool, why didn't he, figure out where the drain field and allow, and some of that might be out of his control, I don't know, but.
Well, number C, the staff says that he has options.
Right, that was my,
That's
why I did the, motion that I did, based on the criteria, because it's hard to,
Maybe should we consider getting him to defer and come back with another design? So
Well, I
he
mean,
doesn't shut down for a
I mean,
long
I'm
time?
looking at,
Huh?
I don't know if I'm allowed to do this or not, but I'm looking at the aerial, and there's a handful of pools larger in the area
Right next to it.
that look like they're a heck of a lot closer to the water's edge than this.
But if they're out of,
compliance, we don't know.
Yeah, but, yeah, and I know we can't,
They're in the buffer.
but I'm looking at, but we're,
Let's talk about what Reagan just said. We're gonna ask him to render this, bring it back. What are you gonna do? You gonna
Yeah.
make the pools less than 15 foot? You can't get rid of the deck. I understand what you were saying. Well, I mean, you can, but that's your DHEC recommended space, so you might as well put the deck there. So.
and it's, I mean, I've always believed, understood that the primary thing about the 570 line was water quality.
Water quality.
So that's the reason I ask about the height of the deck. We're talking 5 feet into closer than it's supposed to be, I believe is what it said. And it's the elevation is well out of the elevation that would be a concern, and it's got the rain garden. I mean, those are all factors to me.
What about some more trees along the river? The edge of the river. His lot looks like the only one that isn't treed along the edge.
So.
Well, we have what, denial, or
a motion.
We got a motion to deny
deny.
on the floor.
So that would be a condition if you decide to not deny it. go for approval.
I'm just throwing it out there.
No, I know, but that's, yeah, I mean,
right
that's
now,
something
we're
to
in a-
consider before we vote, absolutely. I just wanted to get discussion going, so, see what you all thoughts were. I mean, I'll admit, this is a tough one. I mean, typically I vote no on these, and this one, you're all making some good valid points. I still think it's hard
Well,
to get
let me
around
ask,
C.
let's ask this question then, since staff put in there that there were options. Why don't we let them tell us, since we're trying to figure out the options, what are they?
That's why I was.
If you put it there, then tell us what the options are, so we can make a decision.
Now, thank you.
I mean, I think you've already talked about it in terms of making the pool more narrow. I just don't know how much the owner would like to utilize a more narrow pool. And then there's the whole, cost factor. I didn't put that in the report because it's not something that y'all are supposed to
No, we don't consider it
Part of the
absolutely not.
decision-making process.
Right.
But it definitely did factor into the owner's decision-making process. So, I mean, yes, you could redesign and it would be a smaller pool and it would, still be X amount of money. And is that worth it to you? Is it not worth it to you? I mean, that's sort of a matter of personal preference.
At 10 foot, it might become a hot tub.
Just put a big hot tub.
I don't know, we could take it to a vote, and just
Let's
see where we're
take
at.
it to a vote.
See where we're at.
Yep, let's take it to vote.
This is on motion to deny.
This is the
And we have a
motion.
second, right?
Deny, we have a second. All those in favor of a motion to deny, raise your right hand.
Since I made the motion.
All those,
I'd like to make a motion to.
wait a minute. All those
Oh, I'm sorry.
against the motion to deny, raise your right hand. Okay, so the motion fails. We're open to another motion.
Can we have this, okay, let me make the motion. I'd like to make a motion to approve with staff condition and make it 15 feet, staff's condition. And include the proposed landscaping rain garden.
Second. We needed one of those.
Okay. Back open for discussion. Anything else to discuss?
I was thinking maybe put some more plantings on it. The only reason I wanted to defer it, if you look at the aerial of the lots, the trees do more than anything else. Stop the silt buildup. That's why Lake Wiley was originally 89 feet deep, now it's 40. Silt on the bottom now.
And the septic tank.
We didn't even, when we had a roof, we didn't have a septic tank, we had a 55-gallon drum, 22 holes in it. And, but the, some guys just piped it straight in, but I'm thinking about more plant, look around that point, y'all. There's one other lot that got massively cleared like his.
I'm with you on the additional plantings. I'm just not sure how to stipulate that as the board. I mean, do we say with the
When we let them do it was what I was getting at, if you defer, and come to bring it back.
Here?
That's
See what I'm saying? That's what
I just want to say that y'all can add, it's under your purview to add another condition of approval to the ones that I've already put together. So if you would like them to plant 3 trees within that buffer area, you can certainly specify that. You can write it however it is that
that you wish.
And we could say 4 or 5 or whatever it is, small maturing trees.
I do have a question on the plat that we got. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 trees that are listed. 4 of them, well, they're all in the buffer.
Yeah.
I don't see them in the pictures.
They're not in the picture.
So were they cut down?
I'm going by the pictures.
I don't see them in the pic, well, now, we don't see that corner. We see a little bit of the wall here, but then when we look at the aerial view, it's hard to see if those trees are still there. Were they taken down? And if they were taken down, they would have to be put back up, and that would be a condition. Maybe we can ask the applicant if they're still there. Can we do that?
Come back.
Yeah. Okay.
You were already there. You were already there.
They were gone when y'all bought the property.
Okay, so they are gone. All right.
Well, isn't that, or were you there before the?
To the lot itself, you can basically clean it up after the house is built, and we sodded everything for erosion control purposes. And we have it irrigated too, to keep it nice and have that more, Mr. Smith spoke about, because it's too steep to put.
Yeah.
Okay, so you said you bought the property in 17?
Pardon me?
Did you buy the property in 2017, did you say?
Built the house this now.
Okay.
Probably bought it, I guess, around 16,
Okay,
16, 17,
okay,
4 years.
all right. So, wonder where the trees went.
And I don't know if this is relevant, I'll leave this good information to you. Part of the reason asking for it to be in the buffer additionally is the exterior wall, the 3-side wall, are going to have to be engineered and reinforced. They're going to be poured walls, concrete, with bad soil up underneath there. I'm going to have to drive pilings around the structure. Then on the downslope, all that water pushing against that wall, that's why it's got to be engineered all in one unit. And so it's going to have a wider, probably the base of the footing, could be, depending on how bad the soil is once they start excavating, it could be probably 2 or 4 feet wide at the base and come up like this. And knowing that that's a possibility, I wanted to make sure that we were covered if we had to be in the buffer with the foundation. Because I knew it wouldn't be seen, but if a survey was done or somebody put around, if we, whatever happens, and I'm gone and my kids decide to sell this place, they might see that that footer or that spread footer on that wall will be out into the buffer, and they're gonna take these steps, so this is the reason I'm asking for additional space inside the buffer. Because it's got to be all engineered.
Any more comments?
So right now, the motion is to approve with the conditions of the landscape rain garden plans. And do we get a second on that? Do we, or were we still
I
adding?
seconded.
You did,
So
okay,
that
so
we
we,
can discuss.
okay.
And we could potentially amend the motion to add 5 small maturing trees within the 570, sort of mitigate for what got taken out in previous years.
It's got 2 crepe myrtles in here, I mean, you think something along those lines?
Something small. I mean, I'm trying to protect the view of the lake from the house.
Yeah.
But also get some of that water quality treatment back.
It's okay.
So do we run with it as the current motion, or do we, somebody want?
I'm good with this, if y'all want something.
If you're good with the current motion, it's your motion.
All right,
My question is, so do we have, and we do have the rain garden and all that, but, and the tree, and how many trees we up to? We two?
We've not amended the motion to include any trees
No,
at this
just as-
juncture.
The
Just whatever's in his plan.
landscape has 2 great.
Oh, okay, okay.
This is all that's
I was
conditioned
looking
right
for
now.
quantity on,
so to, wait a minute, so to amend the motion, or to amend it, do we have to vote on it first, or do we amend it?
I can amend.
Okay,
He included this when he did the first motion, I'm
Correct.
pretty sure.
Now, do you want to amend this?
I want to amend the motion to add additional trees to that.
Okay.
Above and beyond the 2 crepe myrtles he's currently showing.
What would you like to do? I'll amend my motion.
Bring the tree count up to 5 or 6.
Do you want to specify that be crepe myrtles or just small maturity?
Small maturing.
So add 3 small maturity trees?
Yeah, how many's on there, 2?
Yes, sir.
So, yeah, add 3.
we have to second that?
Has he said it out loud yet?
He's got it.
I'm working on that.
He's writing it down.
So, I'd like to make a motion to approve with staff's conditions, change 15 to 15 feet, and make sure that it includes the proposed landscape plan, and add 3 small maturity trees to the proposed landscape plan.
And I'll second that.
Okay,
Amended motion.
all right.
I'll ask you that again.
David, I just want to clarify, would you like any trees within the buffer area?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So those are the trees we're missing. The missing trees.
Okay,
He can go clean them out of the pool all the time.
so
That
All
should be downwind.
all those in favor of the motion with the conditions and with the amendment, raise your right hand. Passes. Let's see, so we need a motion to close.
I make a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All those in
Fail?